Project 2025 training videos just released recently, and it is fascinating listening to what these people have to say when they think nobody else is listening. This training video right here is called Left-Wing Code Words and Language. So I want to listen to their breakdown of left-wing code words and how they intend to remove them from the government or whatever. It is wild. I also want to talk about the federal workforce and conserving America. So keep a lookout for those. They may be in separate videos, but let's give this code words thing a listen here. While we listen, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 1. Should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much. You never played before.
Hi, I'm Katie Sullivan, and just a normal American woman. To the left, that makes me a cisgendered ethno-imperialist birthing person with pronouns she, her.
No to literally all of that. I don't agree with any of that.
Words like that are quite a mouthful, and it's one America needs to spit out before we choke on it.
Wow, okay then.
In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle.
Yeah, so this is the intro. I'm not going to go through the intro, but trust me that it's psychotic. It's propaganda. Propaganda tends to be normal for 90% of the time, but then like the other 10% is insane. So you'll see this is just Reagan and JFK and stuff talking positively about, our democracy is perfectly normal. I mean, it's kind of patriotic, but nothing wrong with patriotism. But then right at the end, you'll notice this little piece of propaganda here. Watch.
Whether we go forward together with courage.
So you're getting a bunch of positive, patriotic messaging from right-wing presidents, right? Like Eisenhower was he was right-wing. He's also a Jehovah's Witness growing up. I don't know if you guys knew that. Reagan is right-wing, and they're giving positive messages.
Together with courage, or turn back to policies that...
And then he says, turn back policies that ruined America. And they have Biden with a dark filter on it. It's barely noticeable, but it's there. That's how propaganda works most of the time.
Together with courage, or turn back to policies that weakened our economy, diminished our leadership in the world. America's future will be in your hands.
Presidential Transition Project. Hidden meanings, the monsters in the attic. Okay?
Bethany, are your children afraid of monsters in the attic or under the bed?
Yeah, they have been, but we always tell them that they do not exist.
Today we have...
what was it? Deputy Chief of Staff on the right for the Trump administration. Basically, everybody in these videos were in the Trump administration in some way.
News. There are monsters in Uncle Sam's attic.
It's the words, phrases, definitions that are used, which may look like one thing, but absolutely mean another.
Is that a key quality of monsters? They look like something, but they're actually something else?
It is scary.
During this training, we will identify the problem, discuss examples from our time in the federal government, as well as the 5 cross-cutting principles of the current administration. We will teach you how to unwind the words and phrases that have been so artfully layered into every document in the federal government. You can do this in any role at any level of seniority. This training will prepare you to make changes and fast. The left continually pivots and assaults definitions and phrases. They twist words and phrases to support subconscious acceptance.
Okay, this is completely made up, but you can bet if the far right claims that Democrats are doing something, you can be 100% confident that the people, the far right people accusing the left of doing this thing are doing it themselves. Like right here, accusing the left of changing words and trying to gain acceptance or whatever. Damn it, I was right at the end. I couldn't see him. I really do not like the Shrine Quest.
Of a philosophy that was rejected or is against the grain of human existence, like, what is a woman? Perhaps the most effective tool the left wields is their ability to engage in constant subliminal advertising.
This is just made up. The left is not engaging in constant subliminal advertising.
Their narrative, words, and phrases. Marxism became socialism. then democratic socialism.
And who called them these things? You think the left is calling themselves Marxists and socialists and communists? No, it's the right doing that. She's describing something the right is doing and attributing it to the left. This is insane.
And is now represented by the terms social justice and equity. This is perhaps the most scary of all.
Katie, what brings to mind is the quote.
All right, you know what? Let me just kind of readdress what I said there. The right has been calling the left socialists and communists for like decades, since the 1930s, honestly, the 20s, the 30s. They've been accusing them of being socialists and communists this whole time. When in reality, my God, I lost him again. He's gone. Is he over there? Where is he? Yeah, okay, I see him. In reality, the left is not socialist or communist, and the definitions that the right uses of socialist and communist are wrong, like very, very wrong. In the 20s and 30s and 40s, when all of this started, the definition of socialist was, well, the way it was used was people who are in favor of workers' rights programs, like social programs, like unemployment insurance and social security and things like that. That's how Germans used it in the 20s and 30s. Its actual definition is effectively turning things into worker co-ops. Like everything is owned by the workers and unions are baked right into the system. So like workers vote on who their boss will be and the bosses vote on who their boss will be, and then, you know, all the way up the chain to the CEO. And the CEO does not own the entire company. People vote on what the CEO is paid and what each worker is paid. That's really what socialism is today, kind of. That's what's on paper, basically. Communism is a similar system, except instead of workers making those decisions, the state makes those decisions, basically. And the state like kind of owns the companies rather than, you know, workers that are part of the system. They call it, they say that the people own it, not the state, but the people, quote unquote. That means it's a public, a public system or whatever, public company. So anyway, Republicans have been like fabricating what socialism and communism are for like decades. The people who call themselves socialists today aren't using it in the same way that Republicans are using it, obviously. They use them synonymously, effectively, Republicans do. So anyway, yeah, let's keep listening here.
Quote, "He who controls the language rules the world." It's attributed to Joseph Stalin and other tyrants.
By the way, every single fact that you hear in this, don't trust it. Not one. These people are not trustworthy at all. Even on the most trivial stuff. Even on quotes. Look it up.
George Orwell stated, "He who controls language controls culture." Even more, Hitler and others lived by the creed. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it. Without doubt, it's true.
Dude, I love how they're pointing out that this is a strategy of like Hitler and using that strategy. Well, the left is using it. We have to use it too. They're using as a justification. The left isn't doing this. And how about nobody does it?
Which is a powerful and often controlling tool.
Career bureaucrats and the left are also using language to change culture and gain more and more authority, thereby upsetting the balance of power envisioned by our founding fathers. This, in essence, weaponized language against the American people.
This training is vital to you as a political appointee. If there's one thing you take from this training, it is to know when you start your job as a political appointee, every single word, phrase, and acronym must be vetted, and you must determine what implications every word has before publishing or...
People probably understand what Project 2025 is already if you're walking into this, but the goal is to expand political appointees, basically. So, like, the president has the ability to appoint the head of the Department of Energy and the head of, like, the Department of Justice and Secretary of State and all that stuff. Those are political appointees that are chosen by the president, right? Well, Project 2025 aims to control those political appointees and expand it out to not just like a few thousand political appointees total, but all, as they put it, 2 million employees in the government, like all of them, because you never know which one's going to come in handy. And if you control all of these smaller positions along the line, you don't know which one will be useful to you. Like even the manager at the DMV, for example. Of course, that's a state level thing, but just as an example, you control the manager at the DMV, then they'll stop registering voters, for example, when they when they give people their licenses. Just little things all along the way. Death by a thousand cuts. They can control everything if they control these few, 100,000 people or whatever. So that's the idea behind it. They're basically what they're doing is they're trying to build out a deep state. They're trying to build out a system that is completely loyal to one specific person or one specific group and make sure that they all operate to further its goals. Replacing 2 million government employees would completely destroy everything. It would make a mess out of the government. You can't just come in and replace every single person in the chain of command in the FBI. That's why these people built out a database of possible potential employees that could work for the government, could be in those positions at the FBI or whatever, and are fully loyal to Trump. And they're building out this database 2 years ahead of the election because they can vet them and teach them how to step into these roles seamlessly. They have 2 years of lead time. But if if Biden or if Harris were to win, for example, the election, she wouldn't have 2 years of lead time to train new FBI employees. You can't just pull people out and put new people in like that. So they're kind of taking control by having a lot of lead time and doing everything they can to erase the existence of any neutral parties in the government. They want them all politicized, partisan. Every person at the FBI would be Republican that supports Trump. I mean, that's the problem. So let's keep listening to them complain about the deep state as they try to build one out.
Every single word, phrase, and acronym must be vetted, and you must determine what implications every word has before publishing.
So they are literally advocating for the thing that they were just complaining about. They say the left tries to control language, so we must control language. I mean, you're catching this, right? They're complaining about something and then doing that thing themselves. This is insane.
Or moving forward with any official or internal document.
All right, so now that we have identified the problem, let's give the viewers a taste of what we saw in the Trump administration. Bethany and I were both part of a coordinated effort in the Trump administration focused on trying to take back hijacked language and definitions across the United States government and even at our engagements in the United Nations. From our experiences, we will teach you how to identify the left's progressive language, scrutinize career staff compositions for dangerous language.
Scrutinize career staff compositions for dangerous language. I'm not sure what the hell that means. Like, do those words go next to each other? I'm not even sure. I guess what that means is they're complaining about career staff members. So they don't want people who have careers in the government, like just a normal Homeland Security guy who's hired by the Department of Homeland Security and issued a badge and a gun, got a security clearance, and he's just doing his job every day, finding people who, transporting guns or drugs or whatever it is that they do. I don't know. They're just doing their job. I guess she's saying you should never have a career in the government. You should always be a political appointee. That's my read on this, right?
And how to combat their manipulative efforts, ensuring clarity of definition and conservative intention.
Well, that's the thing. It's not manipulative. These people aren't manipulative. They're just doing their job. The Republicans who are trying to form out a deep state are manipulative by trying to replace them.
Bethany and I are going to give you some examples of what...
Yeah, this is called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. They're making themselves out to be the victims in this scenario and denying that they have any part in any, forming out of a deep state or whatever. They have no part in that. And they're claiming that the left does that instead, reversing everything.
We mean by this need to always ensure clarity, but in no way are we able to foresee the future and anticipate how the progressive left will continue to co-opt even more words and definitions. We can tell you the words and phrases being used today, but by the time you enter the administration, these examples may be obsolete.
What I guess she's talking about, like cisgendered, ethno something something, she, her, whatever. Is that, are those the words she's talking about that are going to be deprecated? Are you kidding me?
This will help you spot crucial issue areas to pay close attention to. We do not know what they will be calling men and women by the time you begin your tenure.
You don't really? You don't know what they'll be calling men and women? Maybe men and women. You ever knock that one around?
With the administration, the left is trying to dismantle America and rebuild it in their own image by using the art of deception, and words and definitions are their weapon of choice. Remember, words change culture. Bethany, with your extensive experience with both domestic and international policy issues, and in light of your role in leadership positions at USAID, can you walk us through?
I'm not sure what USAID is. It's Agency for International Development. It's an independent agency of the U.S. government that's primarily responsible for administering civilian foreign aid and development assistance. Interesting. So there were like Trump nutcase people in that like department. What the hell were they doing if not working against that department actively?
Some examples of how the left uses words, weaponizes really, words and definitions. And if you could do that in a context of the cross-cutting issues that are identified in the mandate for leadership, and really as we understand, the cross-cutting issues were identified because they are the pillars of the Biden administration. And so they've been layered into virtually every document in the federal government.
I hear you saying, what has been layered into every document? The answer is delusion. These people believe delusionally that stuff has been wrapped up into everything. It hasn't. This is completely fictitious. Wow, dude, look at all these rupees falling. That's crazy.
If you could walk us through some of those examples, I think it would be incredibly helpful.
I'd be happy to, absolutely. The 5 topic areas for today's discussion are centered on women, children, and family, environment, human rights and border security, the gender cult, and equity. The first topic, women, children, and family.
The gender cult, she says.
I worked on international issues and very closely followed the language presented at the United Nations. And I saw up close and personal how this indeed is true. Language is used to control culture. I'll never forget a conversation I had with the Chief of Staff at USAID. We are trying to provide alternative language for the highly controversial phrase, comprehensive sexuality education.
Wow, interesting. So she's describing using language to change culture and complaining about others doing it. Is it just me?
Or CSE, which at the United Nations had come to mean not just typical sex education, but instead had been morphed into teaching and normalizing sex at very early ages.
They're just completely fictitious. This is not true. She's lying here. People aren't trying to normalize and teach sex at very young ages.
Even as young as preschool.
No.
For girls who became pregnant, that abortion was a preferable method of.
No, nobody is teaching that. Nobody has ever taught that, okay? Abortion can be a preferable, solution to a problem or whatever, and I'm sure that they want people to be aware of that fact, that it can be a preferable solution, but no one is saying it is a preferable solution. That's ridiculous.
Birth control. Back to the conversation.
I'm sorry, wait, one more time, listen.
Normalizing sex at very early ages, even as young as preschool. And for girls who became pregnant, that abortion was a preferable method of birth control.
Why? Okay, wow. She's taking it an additional step. She didn't just say that abortion is preferable. She said it's preferable to birth control. Are you kidding me right now? Why would anybody believe any of this? It's so ridiculous. It's crossed into like almost satire territory.
Back to the conversation with the Chief of Staff. He suggested several alternatives, but each time I told him that, unfortunately, his recommended edit was also interpreted as CSE.
Child sexual, no, child, wait, what does that stand for? I always use CSA, which is child sexual assault, but CSE, exploitation, child sexual exploitation, I think. So what was it?
Unfortunately, his recommended edit was also interpreted as CSE. Frustrating.
So his edit to documents was interpreted as child exploitation? In what way? What edit? What is she talking about?
He vented. They have literally co-opted the English language. And it was at that moment that I realized that the progressive left is controlling the language, redefining definitions, and by doing so, are ruling the world.
This is just fabricated, but she's trying to point this out so that she can convince Republicans to do it. That's the whole Republican strategy. Complain the left is doing something that's heinous, like truly deeply evil. Honestly, like to the bottom of my heart, I believe some of the shit that they accuse the left of is deeply evil. Accuse the left of it when it's not happening as a justification to do it themselves. That's the whole strategy. We're watching it play out here.
On a positive note, despite all the angst that we did succeed on that negotiation. DevX published an article with the headline, "No Mention of Reproductive Rights in Declarations Out of G7 Development Ministerial." You can read more about this in the course materials section.
Damn, see, we only got our hands on like some of these documents, some of these training videos and stuff, unfortunately. I really wish that we could have gotten more information on this, but I don't think we got like course materials, sadly, for example.
Now, let's talk about the word abortion. The left got very creative years ago and started using different words to make abortion sound a little less like murder. For example, sexual and reproductive health, reproductive rights, sexual and reproductive health services, reproductive health services, sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights.
I mean, all of these things, I don't know about like reproductive rights or whatever. I'm not sure what she's talking about here, but these are reproductive health services. And it doesn't just mean abortion either. Reproductive health services means like gynecology appointments. It can mean like STD testing. It can mean handing out birth control or like implanting like the, what do you call it? The little arm thing. Or the shot, what is it? The depot shot? Is that what it's called? There are all kinds of options here. There are all kinds of things that this could mean, that this covers. It doesn't mean abortion.
Sexual and reproductive health and rights. All of these include abortion. For years, we
include abortion. Nobody said it means abortion. It includes that. That's why they use those broad terms.
Knew that the terms above that I just mentioned had been used and that they were code for abortion. The left and the career bureaucrats at state and USAID told us, oh, no. But then when I was negotiating with Canada for the G7 Development Ministerial, I said, well, can we just use these terms and add that does not include abortion? And their response was telling.
Well, yeah, obviously it includes abortion, but it's not exclusive to abortion. Are you kidding me right now? Does she really not understand this concept? Like, even when they're in private conversation to people that they think are, like, on their side, they're still lying and propagandizing and twisting things around. Is this wild? I experienced early sex ed as a parent in Unitarian Universalist circles. That was for child protection. Children should know a handful of basic anatomical terms so they know what is bad and to tell specifically if it happens. It's a problem for predators. Yeah, I agree, absolutely. But they're not like, the implication here is that they're teaching like kindergartners how to sleep with somebody optimally or something. It's important to teach young kids certain terms so that they can be protected or whatever. But for some weird reason, Republicans, like, you know, these people right here, seem to be opposed to children being able to express what's wrong or being able to express how they're being taken advantage of. That's weird, right? Super strange.
Said, but it does include abortion. Even with that admission, I had a difficult time convincing political appointees that these terms were co-opted. Another example hits closer to home and highlights how imperative it is for political appointees to ensure definitions are correct and explicitly followed. 3 days after President Trump took office on January 20th, 2017, he issued a presidential memorandum regarding the Mexico City policy. This became known as the Protecting Life and Global Health Assistance Policy, or the expanded Mexico City policy. When I arrived at USAID in June 2017, I was the first political appointee in a bureau outside the front office and the sixth political appointee in the building. Despite President Trump issuing a presidential memorandum at the very onset of his administration.
Okay, now I don't know what she's about to say, but this is a memorandum. So that means he's expressing his goals or interests or beliefs, not an official decree, not officially commanding people to do certain things. So, okay, go on with that in mind.
To immediately change course and to protect life, even months later, his guidance was ignored. I remember hearing careers refer
That's because it had no political or legal teeth to it. It's a memorandum.
to this policy and even seeing documents that
And is this, I'm sorry, and is this even true? Is this real, or is she just making this up? Again, I say, don't trust a word out of these people's mouths. They lie like they breathe. It's constant.
referred to it as the global gag order. I immediately told the career staff that we do not refer to it as the global gag order, but instead appropriately as the Protecting Life and Global Health Assistance policy. To some, it may seem inconsequential, but it actually was completely undermining the president and the American people who had elected President Trump.
It wasn't undermining anything. It was describing a situation. She is actively trying to impose impose Trump's culture and beliefs and ideals and language on everybody around her. That is psychotic.
So opposed to this policy change, the left actually started a new organization and an international movement called She Decides, which invited NGOs and other foreign governments to join and actively promote abortion services and advocacy, essentially joining together to try to counter what the Trump administration was doing to protect life. Language matters.
Bethany, it's incredible how the left is able to make killing children and babies a pro-movement.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. Were we talking about that? I got the impression we were talking about reproductive health, like, gynecology appointments, STD testing and things, and sure, abortion's included in that. But why is she going straight to abortion? Also, abortion is not murder. It's like a small grouping of cells. It's like, like 150 cells or something. It's not even visible to the human eye up until a certain point in time. And when it is visible to the human eye, it's just a little ball. That's it. There is no, like, humanity or whatever to any of this. This is just, like, completely fictitious.
I mean, their narrative is just incredible and so opposite of what the reality of the situation is.
You know what blows me away? The Bible is in favor of abortion. How can they possibly come out against abortion like this? And the Bible says you should get an abortion in some cases. Like if your wife cheats on you, for example, or if you suspect that she has. This whole thing started as a culture war issue by Jerry Falwell Sr., I believe. Back in like the 70s and the 80s, they tried to use this as a method of getting people pissed off and whipped into a blood frenzy, ready to do whatever it took to accomplish their goals. And it worked. This was a really good method of putting people into an ends justify the means mentality. You know, if you see somebody holding a gun to another person's head and you have the ability to stop this murder from happening, what are you not justified in doing? There's justification for saving that person's life at any cost, just about, even at the cost of the holder of the gun's life. So the right has formed out this whole thing where their goal is to get people freaked out and convinced that people are dying on a daily basis and they have to stop it, as though they care about people dying in any other context. This is only because it's politically advantageous. They have zero emotion on their face, zero emotion in their voice, in anything. It's just bizarre. Is this how they normally act? Why didn't they get somebody who knows how to sit in front of a camera and talk? Like, holy shit, man. Tell me what you think.